You've probably seen a weird AI glitches. Maybe a person walking through a door and their arm disappears for a second, or a dog running behind a couch and when it comes back out, the collar is gone, or a wave that moves in the wrong direction. You laugh, you move on, but here's a question. Why does that happen? A human kid would immediately know something's wrong. AI doesn't, and that gap between knowing what's statistically plausible and understanding how things work, that's what we're talking about today. So here's the basic picture. The AI we've been using for 3 years, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they're called large language models, LLMs. They work by predicting the next word. You type the cat sat on, and the model predicts met. Scale that up to 1 trillion words of internet text, and you get something that can write code, explain concepts, pass exams. That's genuinely impressive. But here's the thing. The model learned descriptions of the world, not the world itself. It knows gravity makes things fall, but it can't model what happens when a glass is pushed off a table. A 2-year-old child has already figured that out, just from watching things fall. That's where world models come in. Instead of learning from text, a world model learns from video, from sensors, from watching the physical world play out. And instead of asking, what work comes next, it asks, what state comes next? Think of it like chess. An LLM has read every chess book ever written. It can describe a good position. A world model has played millions of games in simulation. It's built an internal model of how the board evolves. It can imagine 10 moves ahead without moving a piece. One knows about chess, the other understands chess. That's the difference. And people are pouring a lot of money into this right now. So who's actually building this? Three things happened in quick succession. Fei-Fei launched World Labs and released mobile. You can type a text description and it generates an entire 3D environment. They raised $1 billion. Google DeepMind released Genie 3, first real-time world model generating 3D at 24 frames per second. NVIDIA quietly became the infrastructure layer with their Cosmos platform. But the most interesting one is Yann LeCun. He co-invented deep learning, won the Turing Award in 2018, spent 12 years at Meta. In late 2025, he left to start a company in Paris called AMI Labs. In March 2026, with zero products and zero revenue of 3.5 billion. That's the largest seed round in European startup history. Here's what LeCun has been saying for years. His claim is clear. LLMs are too limiting. Scaling them up will not allow us to reach AGI. The problem is architectural, not a matter of more data or compute. The whole approach is wrong for physical intelligence. LLMs predict tokens, text tokens. No matter how good you get at predicting text, you're learning statistical correlations. You're not learning how reality operates. He calls hallucinations a symptom. When a model generates confident nonsense about how something works physically, it's because there's no grounded model underneath, just patterns. He's not shy about this. In January 2026 at Davos, he said, there are companies building humanoid robots. They do impressive things, but none have any idea how to make them actually smart. Because they're using LLM methods, which are fundamentally brittle for physical tasks. But not everyone agrees, and the people who disagree aren't wrong either. OpenAI, Anthropic, Google believe that scaling plus multimodal data will close the gap. GPT, Claude, Gemini already process video and images. They are adding world model-like capabilities on top of LLM architectures, not replacing them, extending them. And there's a practical pushback too. Figure AI CEO basically told LeCun to get his hands dirty. Robots don't need AGI level common sense to be useful in a factory right now. Good enough is good enough. So there are really two different questions here. One, will LLMs eventually develop genuine physical reasoning if you scale them enough? Or does it need a completely different architecture? And two, even if LeCun is right eventually, is AMI Labs solving the right problem now? Or will good enough robotics eat the market before world models mature? Here's what's genuinely unsettling. Both sides are being made by people who built the foundations of this field. LeCun co-invented deep learning, won the Turing Award, but the labs he's criticizing are also world-class. And they have vastly more compute, data, and resources. And AI has a long graveyard of next big thing paradigms that didn't pan out. LeCun could be right. He could be building the architecture that matters in 10 years. He could also be wrong. Two Turing-class researchers just raised $2 billion to bet against the current direction. That's not a small signal. But it's also not proof. So where does that leave us? 1. If you're using AI tools today, chatbots, coding assistants, image generators, none of this changes anything immediately. World models are years away from consumer products. The tools you're using now are what they are, and they're genuinely useful. 2. But if you're paying attention to where this goes, this debate matters because it's really a question about what the ceiling is. If LeCun is right, the current generation hits a hard wall in the physical world. Robots, autonomous vehicles, anything that needs to act in messy reality. The companies that build on world model foundations will have a serious advantage. 3. The most interesting thing isn't who's right, it's why investors gave $1 billion to someone with no products. When that many serious people, Bezos, NVIDIA, Samsung, Eric Schmidt, bet that much on a contrarian thesis, it's worth asking, what do they know that's not in the press releases? Here's what I'm actually curious about. Do you think the way we're building AI right now, predicting tokens, scaling up, do you think that eventually gets us to genuine physical understanding? Or does something fundamentally different need to happen? Because there are really two camps. One says, keep going, the architecture will get you there. The other says, you're climbing the wrong tree. Both positions are held by people who know what they're talking about. I don't know which one I believe yet. But if you've been thinking about this, or if you work somewhere, building with AI, and you're hitting walls that feel like what LeCun is describing, I genuinely like to know. Drop it in the comments.